Hello, and welcome to Voices in Education. I am your host, Natasha Lee. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Welcome to another live conversation. Welcome to the Voices in Education. All right, so if you're a returning viewer, subscriber, listener, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. If you're new to this space, welcome, welcome. Let me know in the chat. Would love to give you a Voices in Education welcome. All right, Voices in Education is a safe space where we can share and learn from each other. We do that in a respectful way to maintain our safe community where each of us feels, a sense of belonging. We feel valued. All right, so welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, so our topic for this evening is pretty much talking about safety in the context of news coming out of Jamaica last evening. I heard about it, but I just wanted to be sure that, what was happening was, I guess indeed confirmed by another source at least. And so we got, news that, some players and an official, I believe an assistant referee, right, were affected by a lightning strike yesterday in Linstead, St. Catherine. So it was a DaCosta Cup match between Dinthill Technical High School and Charlemont High School. All right, so just to let you know that that happened, but in the context of an update, I can report that, one of the six schoolboys affected by the lightning strike at the game is still in hospital. All right, so one of the six, so it was six, all right, schoolboys affected by the lightning strike, and also the assistant referee, all right, is also still in the hospital. We're hearing that the assistant referee has some problems or have some problems there, some problems going on with the kidneys. So again, we're sending prayers, and best wishes to everyone involved. So the student who is still in the hospital, I believe is because the heart is still racing. So that's pretty much, what I can report to you based on, what has happened yesterday and in the context of an update for today. All right, so it is with that context that, we want to talk about safety as it relates to, I guess, the Costa Cup matches, well, schoolboy football, and perhaps, other areas of, education in this context. So, sometimes our conversation goes beyond, what we have as a topic, but, somewhat related, and that is totally okay. Would love to hear from you. You can participate in this live conversation by sharing in the chat, or you can call the WhatsApp number that you see on screen. All right. The line is open, and I would love to hear from you in the context of safety. What can we do to minimize, the likelihood of, risk or, happening? There are some things that are just unforeseen that perhaps we just cannot plan for, right? But in the context of, things happening, what can we do to prevent, some really detrimental effects? What can we do in the context of safety? So I would love to hear from you. And also, if you're tuned in from, Dinthill or Charlemont, or have those connections, would also like to hear from you, to just share what your updates. So again, this information is coming from, mainstream media. So would love to hear from you. All right. So again, we're talking safety and I would love to hear from you. So I'm just going to go back to some music and the line is open. So would love to hear from you. Stay tuned. Hello, hello, and welcome, welcome. If you're just tuning in, this is another live, and we want to have a conversation about safety in the context of news coming out of Jamaica, where players and officials, so it was an assistant referee, they were rushed to hospital, all right, due to a lightning strike. All right. So I would love to hear from you, what can we do in the context of safety and moving forward, how can we, better, I guess, prepare for some of these unforeseen events and in terms of minimizing risk or danger or, detrimental outcomes. So I would love to hear from you and just to let you know that based on information here from Nationwide News, and I'm just going to bring that up for you. So again, this happened yesterday, which would be September 19th. All right, so this happened yesterday. I heard about it, but I wanted to see this information or this update that I received yesterday being confirmed in another source. And so just to let you know that one of the 6 schoolboys affected by the lightning strike, so at the DCup game in St. Catherine between Dinthill and Charlemont High School, is still in hospital. All right, so what has happened is that they were kept there for, I guess, overnight for observation, and one is still there in hospital. The assistant referee is also still at the facility with problems having to do with both his kidneys. All right, so 6 players and the assistant referee were rushed to hospital Tuesday afternoon after a lightning strike. All right, so during again the DCup match between Charlemont and Dinthill Technical at Charlemont. All right, so again, just we're sending best wishes. So what happens is that I guess the student who is still there is still a concern for medical officials because his heart rate is said to be beating a lot faster than usual. All right, so just to let you know that is the situation right now, and we are sending up prayers and best wishes for everyone involved. It's we don't want this kind of news, right? We do not want this kind of news, and so it is important for us to consider safety and how can we minimize, right, some of the risk dangers in terms of unforeseen circumstances without having some detrimental outcomes. So I'm looking in the chat and I'm seeing trending sports and entertainment saying hello everyone. Hello. Hi Kiwi, I'm here. How are you doing? Hello to you too, family. How are you doing? Let me know in the chat, guys. Please hit the like button and also share. And let us see if we can get to persons there in Linstead. All right, and KJ saying like and share, guys. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. Would love to hear from you in the context of, what has happened and in the context of safety. So again, a lightning strike, affected players, about 6 players and an assistant referee during the Dinthill Charlemont game there in Linstead. All right, so these players and the official were rushed to the Linstead Hospital. One player is still in hospital because I guess his heart, based on the information there from Nationwide, his heart is beating faster than usual. And the assistant referee, their concerns are problems, related to his kidneys. All right. So we want to, just send up prayers, guys. So you can, send some prayers in the chat and best wishes. And we want to also take this time to talk about safety. What can we do in terms of, perhaps minimizing, dangers, risk. And so that is an important piece too, because sometimes, events, unforeseen events, so we can't really plan for them, or we don't know when they're going to happen, right? But there are some things in that we can put in place to ensure that, if something to this nature should happen, what will we do? What will we do? So I saw a video, and I'm not going to share it here because, we have to think about persons who are involved. And sometimes just seeing these things on social media can, bring back, or can cause, trauma and, so we have to think about persons in that way as well, just to see their loved ones, going down. That's perhaps not something that people want to see. All right. So we just want to talk about here, safety. And I'm looking in the chat, trending sports and entertainment saying blessings and like. Thank you for liking trending. Thank you for liking. Guys, remember to hit the like button. And the phone line is open. who is going to be the first caller this evening. Anne-Marie Brown, welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, Anne-Marie. How are you doing? All right, so let me just refresh the chat here. So guys, I want to hear from you. When you and Kiwi, you said you played, football. I remember that conversation. You played football, you went through the different stages, right? So you would know a lot in terms of safety, Kiwi. I'm going to ask you, during your time playing football, did you have like an ambulance there at, every match? What was there? Do you have like a doctor there, a nurse, what happens? You can just take us through. Would love to hear from you, Kiwi. So if you can just call us, we want to hear from you this evening because this one is pretty much, down your alley. All right. Anne-Marie, I'm doing good. Thank you. Awesome, awesome, Anne-Marie. Blessings, blessings, blessings. Anne-Marie is one of our day ones, real OG. Welcome, welcome. All right, so what can we do? A few years ago, we also, unfortunately, a Georges player, I think he was the captain, right? Dominic James, I believe was the name. He suffered, heart attack there in a match, and unfortunately, he passed. So, what can we do in the context of safety? What can we do? When I was looking at the video, it was very short. So, and it's just that video. So I can't really say that there wasn't any medical, persons there in terms of safety. But what I pretty much saw was students, I guess, moving, to students, that kind of thing. So I'm not sure. So I cannot speak to that. But, what can we do? So Kiwi is asking, did this happen today? No, yesterday, Kiwi. I actually got the update yesterday, but I wanted to confirm or wanted to see it somewhere else, like in another source, just to make sure before, talking about it. So what happened, it was Dinthill and Charlemont, the Costa Cup match. And this was playing, I guess, at Charlemont in Linstead. So about 6 players and the assistant referee, all right, they were rushed to the hospital in Linstead because they were affected by, a lightning strike, all right? So they were affected by the lightning strike. Just in terms of an update, one of the 6 players is still in hospital because I guess his heart is beating faster than I guess the usual. And the assistant referee, there's also concerns. He's still in the hospital as it relates to his kidneys. All right. So that's pretty much, the update that I have for now by way of nationwide news. So that is the update that I can share. So I would love to hear from you in the context of safety. So what can we do? Given, what we have seen or, the news, for example, can ISA do anything to better prepare in these contexts in the eventuality that something to this effect, like a lightning strike? What can we do in that context? So I was saying, Kiwi, I know you mentioned that, you played, football, you went through the different stages. So I just wanted to hear from you in the context of your experience, like while you were playing, Did you see like an ambulance? What was there in the context of, I guess medical assistance, do you believe that, in terms of safety, there were certain measures in place to guarantee that, safety for all the players and I guess, match officials, everyone involved? So was there like, police there in terms of, I guess, safety, in terms of an ambulance, doctor, nurse? What was that like for you in that context? So I would want to hear from you this evening, Kiwi. So please call me. All right, guys, the phone line is open, so don't be afraid to call. All right, would love to hear from you. All right, let me just refresh this chat here to see if I'm missing anything in the chat. But welcome, guys. I'm not seeing any new comments just yet. And again, the phone line is open and should be working. So who's going to call to test this out? And don't be quiet in the chat. You can share in the chat as well. But Kiwi, for sure, I want to hear from you. So I'm just looking and I'm just waiting for someone to call. So again, the WhatsApp number is on screen. Kiwi saying, just coming in from work, tired as a bat. Kiwi, I understand. Sorry that you're so tired, but we'll still love to hear the tired voice. You can still call us, And you said, okay, soon. Awesome, awesome. We want to hear from you for sure. All right. So welcome, guys. Welcome. The phone line is open. Would love to hear from you in the context of safety. What can we do? Or you just share your experience, if you were playing, football, whether in the Costa Cup, Manning Cup, or at the different stages. Would love to hear from you, based on your experience. What were some measures in place, if any, that you believe, were safety measures? Would love to hear from you. Would definitely love to hear from you. So don't be afraid to call the number that you see on screen and hit the like button and share, guys. Share. All right. So this is definitely important because we don't want to lose our students. We don't want to lose, anyone. We don't want to lose anyone. And so this is an important conversation. And when I heard about this, like what came to mind right away was, did they check the weather? I mean, I think I heard the coach saying it wasn't raining, or perhaps it was raining somewhere else. But I mean, now you have like weather apps, apps like applications, or I don't know, you can go Google and check the weather. So I am wondering, are we doing that? Like, again, some things we may not foresee, but some things we just need to do. So for example, it could be a day where it is too hot, and perhaps in Jamaica we may not pay attention to the heat, but if the temperature should be at a particular high, for example, are you going to play a match? Do we think about like each stroke, or, what are we? I don't know. But these are some things that we need to consider. Usually, I guess if it is raining a lot, they will, I guess, cancel a match. But, there are other aspects that we need to consider as well. So would love to hear from you in that regard, safety, and especially if you played or you're close to persons who play or, played, DCup or let's say schoolboy football, or any sport in particular, like sports in general. Let me hear from you. Netball, football, whatever sport. Like, let me hear from you. Track and field, you know, let me hear from you. Would love to hear from you. So Kiwi is in the chat here. And let me get to your comment. Okay, so when I was playing schoolboy football, the referee was aware that once lightning is flashing, the game should be called off. Okay, okay. All right, so that's a good point there. Thanks for sharing. So this is something, I guess, that is established. So once, you know, there is lightning, then the game should be called off. All right. All right, so thanks for sharing there, Kiwi. So what were there doctors on on site, you know, ambulance? What was there? So for example, if somebody should pass out, what was in place, Kiwi? Would love to hear from you further. And you said you're gonna call, so I'm going to hold you to that. We want to hear your voice. All right, so let's hear from you. All right, guys, again, the line is open and I'm just going to share with you again because I know some persons are just, coming over, and I'm just going to share the information. So based on, what is happening, right? Yesterday afternoon, or, I got some information that, some players, right? There was a lightning strike and some schoolboys, including match officials. At that point, I wasn't sure who, but now we get to understand that it's the assistant referee, right? So they were affected by the lightning strike and they were rushed to hospital in Linstead, all right? So just to let you know, by way of an update, one of the 6 schoolboys affected by the lightning strike at a DCup game in St. Catherine Tuesday is still in hospital, having been kept overnight for observation. All right, 3 players were actually kept overnight at the Linstead Hospital, but one was released Wednesday morning and another in the afternoon. So it was this afternoon. However, the third is still a concern for medical officials. So this is the schoolboy that is still there in hospital, as his heart rate is said to be beating a lot faster than usual. The assistant referee is also still at the facility with problems having to do with both his kidneys. 6 players and the assistant referee were rushed to hospital Tuesday afternoon after a lightning strike during the local derby between Charlemont and Dinthill Technical at Charlemont. So this information is by way of nationwide news. All right, so just to let you know that is the context, 6 schoolboys, they were affected by a lightning strike, including the assistant referee. They were rushed to hospital, and based on the update, 3 players were kept overnight. So I guess 3 of the 6 were kept overnight for observation. 2 of those 3 players were released today, Wednesday, so 1 in the morning and 1 later in the afternoon. But one of the schoolboys is still there in hospital because his heart is said to be beating faster than usual. And also the assistant referee is still there in the hospital or in the facility with problems having to do with his kidneys. So we want to keep them in our prayers, guys, and we want to, send best wishes to everyone involved, parents, school, it's a lot. It's a lot, and nobody wants to be in this position, and that is important. So, a part of what is happening, given this context, we want to talk about, safety. And if you have, connections with players or persons who played, we want to hear, your views in terms of, what is happening during a game, in terms of measures that they have in place. So are there doctors, ambulance, nurses? What do they have in place in the context of safety? All right, so would love to hear from you. Let me look in the chat here. Kaylee's saying, but the spectators always get mad with the referees. Okay, when they call off the game. And Kaylee saying, no, back in those days, only the school nurse. Not sure if I can call right now. Okay, Kaylee, you're doing more work on top of the tired as bat place that you're in right now. All right, guys, welcome, welcome. The line is open. Please call. Let us talk. Let us talk about, safety. What does that mean? What should that look like? Let us talk. I'm trying to access my phone here. I believe the line is good. The only way we can find out is if someone, test it out. Just call. Just call. Okay, I see you there, Kiwi, saying yes. So guys, remember to hit the like button, share, and also hit that subscription button if you have not yet subscribed to this channel. And also, let me know if it's your first time here. Would love to give you a Voices in Education welcome. I must be missing something here. So welcome, welcome, welcome. The phone line is open. Call me, call me, call me. Let us talk about safety, or, just share your experience at a football match, a schoolboy football match, what you see or what you know in the context of safety, or what can we do to minimize, the effects of unforeseen events, for example. Would love to hear from you. I'm not seeing that I am missing any calls, so perhaps not yet. So welcome, welcome, guys. Welcome. I see that we're growing, so welcome, welcome. The schoolboy football season is in, I guess, rainy months, so we have to be careful. For sure. And I am wondering too, is it that we are checking like the weather, to find out? I mean, you can go to Google and check the weather in Kingston, or I'm not sure, but Jamaica, make connections with the weather people and try to check to see what is going to happen. Is it a good day to have a match? Are we expecting lightning, rain? And even the temperature. I mean, we don't pay much attention to that, but if it is too hot, then, we should not be having a match either. So would love to hear from you. And that's a good point you're making there, Kiwi, that, football season is usually in the rainy months, the hurricane season. So, we need to, I guess, think about that in the context of safety as well. That is definitely important. Still waiting on the first caller. Let's see who is going to score this evening. Who is going to be the first person to score a goal? I'm also checking the chat, not seeing any new comments. And it is pretty quiet here. I perhaps can let you hear the code. Let me see if I can find that recording there for you. I'm gonna try and get that recording for you. See how best I can find that. All right, let me just take this call. Hello, caller, you're live.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
You scored.
That's good. That's good. That's good. As long as I'm not struck, I'm pretty good, you know. It's like as long as I'm doing the striking. So really interesting topic. Really interesting topic. I think safety is not something that is, widely talked about as it relates to sporting affairs, especially like, as you mentioned, in the cases that have, surrounded soccer and schoolboy football. Um, I'm not so sure because Jamaica is in tropical climate there. We don't normally tend to focus much on the weather per se, but you know, it's sad when things like this happen, and if we have to just, if it happens, we should be prepared for it. And when we say prepared, if lightning is flashing, then the game should be called off or postponed or delayed until that has subsided, or rescheduled. But it is a culture where I have played soccer too, and it is something that I enjoyed doing in my youthful days. Playing soccer in the rain. But I guess God has been good to me in that sense, where we didn't have lightning flashing. But usually, if it is lightning is flashing, and usually it's accompanied by thunder, people would take heed. So I don't know exactly what the context was in terms of what was happening at the game. That's a little bit I'm still a little bit unsure about what was happening. If it was raining, or it's a case where the lightning just flashed and struck them out of the blue like that. Usually lightning is associated with rain, but it can happen otherwise, because I've seen that as well, where times dry pouring and lightning flashes. So, I'm not sure how that happened, but it is something that happens from time to time. So they need to take the necessary precaution as it relates to having the disaster. What do you call them? The necessary persons to react anytime these occurrences takes place. So that's how I view it. It's unfortunate that people are still having that sort of trouble in terms of playing games or presenting. They are struck, but I if the officials have that power to stop the game if lightning is occurring. But all the persons who are at the game would understand and know. And I'm thinking that you have, the officiating team, which is the referee and linesman, and I'm not sure if you have a fourth official in those games, and the coaches and so on. So there are adults there who should know exactly how the rules are and should advise the necessary people if it means to get a message to the referee and so on, so that the game could be stopped. I'm not sure how it happened. Would be the first strike of lightning that got it, or I'm not sure.
So
it's a case
all right,
just,
all right. What you could do, could you just, if you just call me back, I can just play what the coaches, okay. What the coach of, I believe, Dinthill technical football team, said. I could play some clippings. So you could just call me back, and perhaps this will add, some context to what happened.
All right, perfect.
All right, awesome. So guys, welcome. If you're just tuning in, we're, talking about safety in the context of what happened yesterday at the Dinthill Charlemont match in Charlemont, so I guess in Linstead, in St. Catherine there. And, 6 players, including 6 player as well as an assistant referee, were rushed to hospital due to a lightning strike. And so by way of an update, 1 player is still in the hospital, and there's concern because his heart rate is going faster than usual. And the assistant referee is still at the facility because of some concerns regarding his kidneys. And so again, prayers and, best wishes to everyone involved, and definitely not the news we want to hear. So I'm just going to play some clippings from the coach for Dinthill Technical, O'Neill Thomas. And again, these clippings were from yesterday, all right? So Tuesday. So I'm just going to go ahead and play the first one. And again, this is by way of, nationwide news.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the time.
How are the boys?
They're coming on. They're on I'll call it the college trip, and one is on the oxygen, but they're fishing. They're coming on. They're there for observation. They will keep them on overnight, and then let them go. So they're just observing them right now.
So they're all
the referee. I think the referee he come around, so but they are keeping them under the drip training and observing them overnight.
O'Neill, they said in the video I heard them say linesman. Is it the assistant referee or is it the referee?
No, the assistant referee. Assistant. It seems like it's the line. It's where we were, and then it crossed the field. We saw the referee on the ground.
All right, so that was one of the clips, and let us move to the next one.
I think it's about the 25th minute to 30th minute of the game. The rain wasn't falling, everything is okay, although it was overcast. And then one lightning, bam, I was saying, when I nearly touched the ground, I up again. When I look, I see my 3 players down, rush to them to the bus, the bus get them to the hospital fast. I didn't see any Charlemont player. I don't know if any of them get hurt, but we saw the referee, 4 players, and the referee went quickly to the hospital.
All right, so that was Coach Thomas there, and he's saying pretty much that the lightning, I guess, struck in the 25th minute there-ish. So pretty much in the first half of the game, and at that point, he did not see any Charlemont player down, but I guess he said like about 3 or 4 of his players were down, and I guess the assistant referee, And what he's saying is that they pretty much they rush their players. And I'm not sure if the assistant referee was in the bus to the hospital. All right. So I guess this is perhaps suggesting that maybe there wasn't any perhaps ambulance not there, and I'm not sure if there were any medical personnel there. Can't speak to that, but we're just wondering. So those are pretty much the clips that I have that I can share with you, courtesy of Nationwide News. All right, so welcome. So Ruren, you can definitely call me back, connect with me again, and continue to share. So I just wanted to share that with you, and perhaps we can listen to the second clip again, because that gives us a little bit more. So let's try that again.
I think it's about the 25th minute to 30th minute of the game. The rain wasn't falling, everything is okay, although it was overcast. And then one lightning, I would say, when I nearly touched the ground, I up again. When I look, I see my 3 players down, rush them to the bus, the bus get them to the hospital fast. And then the same with Charlemont player. I don't know if any of them get hurt, but we saw the referees, 4 of our players, and the referee went quickly to the hospital.
All right, so there you go. So what Coach Thomas is saying, that they went quickly to the hospital, and it seems as if everyone went on the bus. Not sure if that perhaps Dinthill's bus, but again, some concerns here, regarding safety. So what can we do? And so what he was saying is that it wasn't raining, but it was overcast. So that was happening, and I guess the lightning strike happened, and the players went down. So he was saying about 3 or 4 players. I guess I need to get that number correct based on what he said there. Were down, and it seemed as if he went down too, because he said something about going down, and they tried what they could in terms of rushing the players to hospital. In the first clip, he was mentioning that some players were on, I guess, given IV, and I guess they tried to ensure that they get the medical attention as quickly as possible. So just to let you know, fast forward to today, and what I can report, that one player, and based on this information that we got perhaps about 2 hours ago now, one player is still in hospital because his heart is racing faster than usual, and the assistant referee is still at the facility having, problems, or there are concerns with his kidneys. All right. So we want to hear from you in this context. All right. So connect with me. The phone line is open. Would love to hear from you. I don't want to be talking, just doing the talking by myself. All right, it's not voice, it's voices. So definitely want to hear from you. And I'm just going to check the chat right now. Let me just get back into the chat. Please open. All right, let me just get back into the chat here. And not seeing any new comments. Oh, did I read this one? Kiwi saying, I was at a match last year and it was raining, and to my surprise, spectators were sheltering under trees while there was lightning. Okay. All right, so lightning. Oh God, I guess you don't play with it. It's a serious thing. Welcome, guys. Would love to hear from you. It's pretty quiet this evening. So don't be afraid to call in, safety is important. And so if it is that we, I don't know how this is going to be possible given, the schedule or the fixture in terms of the number of matches that are being played, at a given time and in different places. If it is a case where ambulance can be at, every game, because that now, I guess, opens another conversation, right? Does Jamaica have the resources in that context? But this is something for ISA to consider because, we want to ensure that if whatever should happen, that, we have the necessary things in place to mitigate or to prevent any detrimental effects, right? So what can we do in the context of safety? I believe one of the things where I guess the weather is concerned is to make the connections like with, I guess, the meteorological center or the weather people, as you would perhaps refer to them, make the connection, like, make that connection. Find out if it's going to be a good day. Is it too hot? Are we expecting, rain, lightning, perhaps thunder? Like, let they tell you. Like, I feel that that's an easy one to do. That's easy to do. Make the necessary checks. Not saying that they aren't making the checks, but in the context of this match, so the coach was saying it wasn't raining, but I guess it was dark, overcast. So, what is happening there? And it was like within the first, 25 minutes, he said about the 25th minute that this lightning strike occurred and, players went down. So let me see here. Let me just go back to the chat. What is happening there? Okay, just need to pause that. Okay. So track and field is on pause now. Somewhat the season is like okay, it's like the end of the season. So I guess just for now until we get some further updates. Hello, caller.
Hello, just circling back.
Oh, awesome.
Really added some, some context to the situation. It's just one of those situations that I think is really hard. You don't, based on what the coach said, it wasn't raining. It was the first strike of lightning that I guess, I'm not sure if it's the first one, but
I think that's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah, that one was significant. So, in any case, they did stop the game whenever it was needed because, if there were no lightning before that, then they stopped it as soon as they saw the first one.
Well, I'm not sure that they did. Well, they did. They had to because the players went down. That's my understanding. It's not as if the game was stopped and then it happened, like the strike, happened. Like my understanding. That's what I'm saying. So
the fact that it happened with the first strike of lightning there, so to speak, based on the coach's, comment, then, you can't really fault the officials or anyone as it relates to that. As it relates to you made a valid point about the ambulance being there, and based on what the coach said, it sounded as if, the school bus was used to take the kids to hospital and maybe even the linesman. So it's one of those situations that you can't really, I guess you will never be fully prepared for a case like that if it were to happen again. So, it's difficult when you think about it like that.
So
And, you are making the point
can
of
they
them
not check
touching
the
base with
weather?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making a point of them being in touch with the persons who the meteorological service. But you have to remember that despite all, it is weather prediction. So they are not sure what is going to happen. They will tell you that there's a high chance of, but they can't say that it will. We take it for granted that those whatever they provide for us as it relates to weather, they're all predictions and it's not always 100% accurate because the weather is always changing. So they could tell us that rain will be falling and it doesn't happen. And that is where they will tell you that they're just predicting what will happen. So it's difficult. It's difficult to really prepare for situations like this. And it's so unfortunate that persons got hurt in a situation like this. And I'm just hoping and trusting that each person will recover fully from this and be able to progress with their lives normally.
Yeah, and that's the hope, prayers and best wishes for everyone involved. Definitely not the news we want to hear, but we're happy so far that I guess most of the persons involved, they're back home. And so just remember that one player and that assistant referee there again, prayers and wishing them a speedy recovery. But in this context, though, I mentioned earlier that, and similar to what you're saying, there are some events that are unforeseen that we cannot tell when or if they're going to happen, but we can definitely have things in place to, I guess, mitigate or prevent detrimental outcomes, because we understand, as you mentioned earlier, and somebody, Kiwi in the chat mentioned, the season in which they're playing is the hurricane season. And so, and I listened to the coach, he said it was overcast. And so the likelihood of, you seeing that perhaps rain or as what happened there, lightning is, I guess, was high, and it happened. So in this case, rainy season, I am wondering, and I would want to believe that ISA is ensuring that medical personnel are there. Kerry mentioned in the chat that school nurse was there. So in that case too, I am wondering if ISA has made it the responsibility for the individual schools to pretty much, have that responsibility for safety. So like having like the school nurse at the matches. And if the school nurse should leave the school, who is at school? So I am wondering if it is the responsibility of the individual schools now to ensure that they perhaps have a doctor there. But I am saying if that is the case, ISA should be the one taking responsibility for that. It's their competition. And I'm not too sure, so I can't speak definitively to what is happening. And I'm just going off what we shared there, that, a school nurse, like, in his time, or I'm just, perhaps I need to go back to his comment, but he was mentioning that a school nurse was on site. So when I hear about school nurse, I'm going to say, okay, perhaps each school then should have, their medical personnel, on site. I am not sure. But we have seen some things happen. So for example, a few years ago, a player, I believe he was the captain for Georges, he, I guess, collapsed. Not too sure, but I guess based on what happened, he suffered, a heart attack, and he unfortunately passed. So in those contexts too, what is on site? What is on site? What are we doing to mitigate some of those events? And again, the way the matches are played in terms of several matches being played at a given time or on a given day, Jamaica, based on what I know, based on my experience, does not have that amount of ambulance to, I guess, to disperse at all these locations. So how is it that we're going to ensure safety in that regard? I don't know if you have anything to share, Rurian. Lots of things I'm just throwing out there for you to unpack, and persons in the chat.
Well, you made a valid point as it relates to the number of games being played and the number of ambulance that is available in the country. But just think about a country that has over 3 million people, and you think about the percentage of persons who are playing the schoolboy football, and you're thinking about other persons who are having other, who there are accidents and places where the ambulance might need to be in the sense of, saving people's life rather than to be on spot just in case. So if you understand the point that I'm trying to make. So that's a tough one again, for you to have your resources, waiting on something to happen. And even if that were to happen, I'm not sure if all the games would have one of those there. So, a lot of this is bringing to the fore. And, I don't know how this can be addressed. I was thinking while you were talking as well, and I'm wondering if, for example, not talking about the line, just going from that a little bit, but you mentioned that the captain of the St. George's team.
Yeah.
And I am wondering.
I wonder if we're wondering the same thing, if they have what they call it, like defibrillators, those devices, like, do you think that they have them at every match now, given that that player collapsed, had an heart attack?
I'm not sure, but I think they are more prepared. I don't think they are, at the same level that they were back then, but I think they have made certain provisions. As you said before, apparently the schools might be in charge of that aspect in terms of, care, in terms of injuries and so on. But point that I was thinking was that, are these young people who are wanting to represent the school, are they fit enough, and are they able to do that? Do they have underlying illness or sickness that is unidentified, or are not brought to the fore as it relates to the school or to the coach, so that they could probably. So I don't know if that is done either.
That is a very good question. That is a very good question. And schools do medical every year. Schools do medical every year, and that is one of the problems I have with, and I think we talked about this in a previous conversation, where it's as if it's done and it is placed there. So as teachers, for example, if a student is asthmatic, you don't know about it. These papers are based on my experience. I'm just talking about my experience because perhaps other schools might do it differently. I am talking about my experience. So it's as if you're never aware of kids who might have, as you would say, some underlying illness conditions, and you don't know, and they're doing medicals every year, and dental too. I'm still trying to figure out the purpose of the dental. I can't get to that yet, but understanding the reason, or doing a medical is necessary, but when it is being used, so you have these students, you don't know where, if they have like puffers, where they carry them, you don't know that they even have asthma, like for example, I'm just using that. And so you have, students perhaps, being diagnosed with or having a medical condition, and you're doing the medical, but you're just not aware. You're just not aware. And in that case, like, what is the purpose then of you doing a medical if you're not going to use it as it relates to ensuring that students are safe and to meet and to prevent any unfortunate situation? So with this Dominic James, in terms of this happened in 2016 or somewhere there, it's not too long, but I'm trying to remember, and guys, you can correct me in the chat. I doubt he had like any issues, if I can recall, based on parents. So it was just, I guess, some sudden unfortunate event where he collapsed, and I guess the autopsy showed that he died from, heart failure. So I don't know if they have at every game one of these devices. I doubt it, because if it is, they're going to perhaps look at cost. So we need to consider these things. Is it that you're expecting certain players to play in the context that, for example, that, they don't have any like asthma, heart conditions, like what, or they need a note from the doctor to say that they're okay to play. I don't know what will happen in that context, but that's a valid point in terms of the medical, there, but schools do it every year. So is it a case where they are not using it? I don't know, but that's a very good point.
Well, I'm not sure what is happening with the medicals either. My experience is that, there are times when you might be in the classroom and there's a students in that class who have medical conditions or underlying illnesses. And if something were to happen, you wouldn't even know that that's the case. And, that could lead to shock for you as the teacher in the classroom, not knowing what to do or what to, that's something that you wouldn't even expect. And I guess it's the kind of same feeling that persons who are around the sports team are feeling as well. But it's a difficult situation, and the most that can be done is to put things in place that can help to just in case something were to happen, that we can give them the necessary medical attention as quickly as possible.
Yeah, for sure. It's a tough one, and it's hard. It's hard. So I am just going back to Dominic's thing here. I'm just reading briefly, and I see mention of George's team physician. So I'm going to perhaps guess that the schools are responsible for their medical, I guess, team. So I'm not sure, but in this instance, they were saying that the doctor, I guess, tried to revive him before he was placed in his father's under CRV and rushed to the hospital. So again, we realize that no ambulance, right? So I'm not too sure. And here the doctor is saying, I'm just reading here, Dr. Alexander told the Jamaica Observer that Dominic was foaming at the mouth and gasping for breath. His body was shaking. He showed signs of seizure, the doctor said. We wanted oxygen and couldn't get any. We put him on his left side, but he was still gasping. By then, we got a vehicle to carry him to the hospital. So you see, so these are some of the things. I am not sure. I am not sure, what it is that we're going to do to ensure that we can minimize this. And
tough
in
situation.
this one, they said the Dr. Alexander, clearly shaken by the tragedy, pleaded with the Inter-Secondary School Sports Association, ISA, to provide proper medical assistance at games. So this was in 2016. So perhaps, Georges, they have, schoolboys. So perhaps they just took it on themselves to have their doctor, present, right? So this is what the doctor is saying. It's not just oxygen. We're talking the basic resuscitation kit or even an ambibag. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation won't help. CPR maybe, yes, but that alone won't help because after CPR, you need backup equipment for the basic support of life and oxygen included, said the doctor. So you understand that was 2016, it looks like, and we're now in 2023, right? And we are hearing again that busing, I'm not sure what was there, but again, we have to talk about resources. But in the same time, if it is that if we have to choose in terms of, risking, our students and their safety, what is it that we're going to do? So perhaps have a longer season where you're better able, I don't know, where you're better able to put more safety measures in place. I am not sure because usually season I guess goes until about December-ish, early December. I'm not too sure, somewhere there. But for sure, we need to do something. Definitely need to do something.
Well, I understand, I guess they can cover some bases or, the basic stuff. I'm not sure, just probably have a line because I'm sure they'll be able to cover all situations. But I guess they would have to, have it set up in such a way that, if somebody needs, a bit of stuff to keep them alive or to at least trying to help them to transition to the medical facility, it is on spot and available with the necessary medical personnel to, administer. But to be prepared for all eventualities for all games, that's really, really hard. Really stand what else. That's going to be really challenging. It's similar to how you have similar to how you want all the games to have an ambulance. I guess in terms of that, they could have somebody, and I'm not sure either, that you could designate somebody to take person to the hospital. But then again, the initial care is important too. You need that medical medically trained person to do that. So it's a tough one in a case like the Dinthill situation where you have more than one student, more than one person being injured. Then if you designate a person with a car, then that would not work. So it is a lot of variation to it. It's hard to pinpoint what can be done in order to mitigate these things. But what should be done for sure though is all the precautions should be taken, knowing the medical history of the students, all of those things should be taken into account before so that you are able to get them out there playing. And even so, there could be something that happened during a game that to all of what I'm saying out through the window. But one thing that struck me from the article that you were reading, that they said that his father was there, and that's another good thing that I think happens, is that usually the parents or guardians, they normally support the kids, and we'll have to just bank on the fact that these individuals know their kids very well, and I'm thinking with them and the medical professionals, they're working together, then that is not a bad response in order to keep
But
kids safe.
how many parents are able to go to matches? And yes, the parent might be there and a medical professional, but without the resources. And that's what the doctor was saying, that being here, I can do this, but Issa, you need to ensure that you provide things, you put things in place, right? So I guess schools and knowing, like I guess George's, and they will, I'm not sure if Issa's taken anything, but I guess George's, they would perhaps take something from that. And so I guess they go into matches, they'll have doctor, because obviously they had a doctor then. So I'm supposing that perhaps they are going to ensure that the doctor has some of these, I guess, basic resources that can help in terms of ensuring that they don't lose any more players in this way. That is definitely important.
For real.
So I
So,
guess schools, I guess schools will have to take it upon themselves to ensure that, when you think it's sending out a team, you ensure that you're considering safety as well for the students.
Yeah, because once they're representing the school, then the school is responsible for them. But as you made mention of that, it brought me back into the school, schoolyard, so to speak, where you have, like 1,000 students at a school with one nurse. Things like those, where I'm not sure how prepared we are, even if something happens inside the school.
But all right, this is it. What Jamaica is doing in terms of having a nurse at the school is good. So I want to applaud my country for that. I know it's at the high school level, the primary level. Based on my experience, I never had a nurse at primary school. I'm not sure. How about you?
No nurse at primary school.
Right. So I'm not sure why that is not the same for primary schools, but at the high school level, I applaud that, because being like in an international, like overseas in a foreign country, and I'm just speaking about one foreign country, I do not see nurses at school. But mark you, they have a plan in place. If something should happen, this is what they're going to do, right? And they're going to call ambulance or, whatever to take the child. But there is always a plan. There is always a plan. There is always a plan in place, right? And so that is important. So for sure, I really like the fact that, Jamaica has that. What I don't understand is that in instances, again, where they do medicals, nurse might not be able to access that in the event that something should happen to a student. They might not have access to that right away. And so this is what I want. You have and again, this is based on my experience. You have the information. You just need to make it accessible to the persons who need to have it. And so like form teachers, subject teachers who are pretty much interacting with the students, and especially the students who might have, you know, a medical condition. So this is definitely important in the context of safety. So I don't know, what are your views on that? And again, even with school, you know, you mentioned some schools, a lot of students, and I don't know in that context, you know, what happens? What happens? Some of us, when we think about schools, if something should happen, the schools, the classrooms, they do not have any doors. They have grills. So if somebody should like, you know, invade a school or whatever, you can't hide, like you can't go anywhere. And these, you know, when these doors, usually the locks are closed, and you'll have to have the get the ancillary worker to come and, so it's not like you can close yourself in for most of the classrooms, most of them. Well, again, based on my experience. I've never been, apart from like you going to like the computer labs and those places, but you know. We
Well,
don't.
you know, the school system as its ills, especially certain things are not. Well, I guess I guess some things are taken into account, and we have to bear in mind that many of these schools were built long ago, too, before certain, problems it came to the fore. But even so, there should be certain, developments in certain regards in terms of safety
Upgrades, right?
and so on. Yeah, for schools to be safe. But a lot. It There are a lot of ills in the system, and it probably needs an overhaul in order to fix everything. Start at ground zero and build back up. And I'm not sure how willing the government will be to do something like
But
that.
this is it. Have you been
But
to like a school where you see they're putting up a new building and they still have these grills? Okay, in Jamaica, like for persons listening, North America, when I speak about grills, we're talking about burglar bars, all right? So burglar bars. But in Jamaica, we refer to them as grills. When you see new building going up, they're not putting on like doors. We're still seeing this method. So it's not like you're saying, okay, that is old because we're doing this. This is how it's going to be look like. Again, based on my experience, all right? And that might be limited to a particular setting. But I am saying that we need to think about that in the context of safety. You know, teachers, so you go to a class, you don't have any keys to lock any door. Again, if it's not certain places like perhaps the library, the computer room, you can't close it. You can't close it. So if somebody should come with a G and decide that they're going to do whatever they want, you can't have a proper lockdown. And we don't practice these things like emergency, measures in terms of if it is that something like this should happen, what do we do? We don't. Perhaps sometimes they have fire drills to say in the event of a fire, this is where you go. But think about how many students and fire drill. What do we have? We don't have anything. I guess perhaps that that system where they talk to, but there's nothing to like a bell or whatever where you can know once you hear that sound, you need to leave. All right, so those are some things that we need to consider for sure.
I agree with you. But then again, it opens up that supervision aspect to things, because in Jamaica, what happens, you know, teachers don't have any support, in class support, in terms of like educational assistant, or a lunch supervisor. And I think some of these things, like as you mentioned, the construction of new buildings and so on. I think another aspect of it is that the administration is fearful that if kids are able to lock themselves away in classrooms while they are, unsupervised, and that could cause other ills or other problems. I think probably it's from that standpoint as well. So,
I do
it's
understand that, and the ministry and whoever who has that authority, they can do that, because have cafeterias, and some schools do not have that. Lots of schools where you can have students, it's lunchtime, okay, we go here, we can sit here and have our meal. And that's a very important point in the context of, supervision and safety, right? Where you can say, all right, we're going to close the rooms. It's lunchtime, so we're closing the rooms. But students, I don't know, students do not really have that where they can go somewhere and just have their lunch, knowing that the farm room is going to be closed. Normally, you get your lunch and you return to your classroom. That is where you have your lunch, unsupervised. But I guess, the door is open, so nobody can lock themselves in that sense. But we need to start, thinking about the bigger picture and safety in that regard. That is definitely important. And that's another thing too, in terms of support for teachers. And teachers burnout because there's so much to do. And you can imagine when you have your free period, you're getting a city and you need to go and sit with a class, like not even a free period, because teachers always have something to do. And so in that context too, substitute teachers, we need to have that system in place. And that's another conversation, Rurian, for sure.
Well, the substitute teachers aspect is going to really raise to the financial constraints that the education ministry has. So that's the thing with those. They're not going to go down those. I don't think they're going to challenge in order to get other stuff sorted out. But yeah, it would be good that if classroom supports are in place, and supervisors so kids are able to be in a way that aligns with rules of the school. But that's how it is, unfortunately. And I guess you need, when it comes on to soccer, you just need to have your first aid and a little bit more, just to ensure that the safety of the kids when they go out there to represent.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. The chat is very quiet. Guys, would love to hear from you. So we're getting to that wrap up point. And we'd love to hear some more from you. It's okay, we shared, in the chat there, and would love to hear some more from you. So don't be afraid to share in the chat or call. Can take perhaps another 2 or so phone calls. Yeah, would definitely love to hear from you. Definitely want to hear from you. The chat is pretty quiet. And there are lots of things that we can share our voice on based on our experience and knowledge. And so, yes, track and field is a bit, out. It's the end of the season pretty much. So not until we have, further updates that we can, share our voices there again. But, it continues, it continues here, in terms of, you know, what we can share and learn from, and sometimes, what other persons can learn from us. So it's definitely important for us to share. All right, guys. So I'm just checking. Let me just refresh this chat here. So again, just by way of update, about I guess about 3 hours ago, it was reported that one of the 6 players, right, remains in hospital because his heart is beating or going faster than usual. The assistant referee is also in the facility because of some problems related to his kidneys. So again, prayers going out and up for them, and also, best wishes to everyone involved. And we never want to hear these news. We're excited about supporting our teams, our schools, and guys, support the students. I must say that support the students. It's a lot, but at the same time too, we want to ensure that, when they go out there to play, that, they are safe, or, measures are in place to keep them safe. And that is definitely important. That is definitely important as well. So back to you, Ruren.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of work to do in order to get the systems, in place to take care of kids. But if that is done, in a systematic way where you know that there is some improvement, then that would be really good. So I'm not sure if the government is willing to go that way. They might not want to, but get some of these implemented so that the kids stand a better chance in whatever they pursue.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I have some updates here from Issa in the context of, I guess, matches that were played and scores, but I am telling you, it's so hard to read. It says table. I don't know what they're thinking with this table, but I'll try my best here, guys. I'll definitely try my best. All right, so who got the score here? It's hard to see this. Center score 1. Who got the score? I guess Ocherius 1-0 against William Nip. All right, let me see if I can find this any better. All right, let's see here. All right, some scores to share with you. So St. Catherine 7, Edith 0, Garvey Massey 4, Vertex 0, Excelsior 7, Cedar Grove 1, William Nib 0, Ocherius 1, Idle 10, Penwood 0, Fogar Road High 2, Tatius Golden 0, Manchester got the better of Cross Keys 11-0, and I read this one already about Ocherius High. Stets got the better of Newell 8-0. And yesterday, Glenmuir got the better of Porus 16-0. Denby High got the better of Central. This looks like 5-0. All right, Tivoli 1 goes to Kingston Tech 0. All right, so just some DCup Cup and Manning Cup updates for you there. Brought to you from Issa, Facebook page. All right. So welcome, welcome. What was the biggest score for Manning Cup so far? You know, Kiwi, I'm a country girl. Not too sure, but let me just check. I'm gonna check and tell you. Manning Cup. I know we have some big numbers in the Costa Cup, but I wonder if it's Idell's 10-0 here. St. Catherine also had a 10-0. I'm just checking to see. All right, just checking. This is the Manning Cup one. Well, 16. George's had a game against, I'm not sure, but George's had a game against Pembroke Hall. So perhaps so far I'm seeing 16. So far it looks like that. It looks like perhaps George's, but again, matches are being played. So perhaps it's George's 16 there in that game against Pembroke Hall. So perhaps it's George's. Yeah, perhaps it's George's 16 goals to 0. Perhaps that's the highest in the Manning Cup so far. So perhaps that's that. Yep, maybe. And we have some schools in the Costa Cup for sure, you know, getting some high scores. I know Ocherius, they got a 15 goals. Denby High 18. And Glenmere now with 16. So but I'm sure the Costa Cup has, you know, in terms of goals so far, it would be in terms of the highest score. I guess the Costa Cup is leading in that regard. I am wondering if I saw one that was 20 something, like 21, but I know there's an 18. And I guess it's just me. I'm just a country girl. I'm a country girl. But one of my schools not doing so well in DCup. And I guess they're not going to make it out of the zone. Such is life, and life is such. But still supporting my One Central. But Color Red seem to be doing really good. That's Glenmere High. And for sure, support there. I didn't want them to be in the same zone, but unfortunately they are. And Glenmere and Denby High, Central High, who else is in that zone? Porus, and I believe Old Arbor High. They're in that zone. And based on what I am seeing, it's going to be, I am thinking Glenmere and Denby perhaps going to make it out there. All right, so I guess you're a William Nib guy, right, Kiwi? That's the team you're supporting. Just checking in the chat there. Namara. You're welcome, Namara. Welcome, welcome, Namara. We're just about to, we're wrapping up. We're wrapping up. So I know it's like morning where you're at there in Uganda. So hello to all the people tuned in from Uganda. Hello, hello, hello to you. All right, so I'm just going to see if I can read Issa's table now. It has a lot here. Some matches were played today. I think I talked about William Nib Orchie, Cedric Titus, Discovery Bay. And this looks like Cedric Titus 10 and Discovery Bay 0, York Castle Fern Court, and York Castle 3, Fern Court 0, Brownstone, but not Gallimore High, and 2 for Brownstone, 0 for Not Gallimore, Petersfield, and Nakalva. And this looks like 3 for Petersfield, 0. Nakalva Stets, Newell. I talked about that one, 8 goals to 0 in favor of Stets. Monroe, Sydney Pagan, and 2 goals to 0 in favor of Monroe. BB Coke High, Magati, and 2 goals to 1 in favor of BB Coke. Lacovia High, Roger Clark High, 10 goals to 2 in favor of Lacovia. Mount St. Joseph and Mayday, 1 goal to 0 in favor of Mount St. Joseph. Cross Keys High and Manchester. And we have here 11 goals to 0 in favor of Chester, Manchester. Belair and the Carteret, 1 goal to 0 in favor of Belair. Thompson Town and Lennon, 2 goals to 1 in favor of Thompson Town. All right, this looks like Claude McKay and Clarendon College. And this looks like 5 goals to 0 in favor of Clarendon College. And let's go. So these matches were played today, Wednesday, September 20th. And let's see the next one. Edwin Allen and Kellitz. So 6 goals to 0 in favor of Edwin Allen. And Horace Clark High and Karen Hall High, 8 goals to 0 in favor of Horace Clark High. Robert Lightburn and Morant Bay, 12 goals to 0 in favor of Morant Bay High. Fogar Road and Tatius Golden, 2 goals to 0 in favor of Fogar Road. Garvey Maceo and Vertec, 4 goals to 0 in favor of Garvey Maceo. Let's do that again. Yeah, in favor of Garvey Maceo. And Fair Prospect and Port Antonio High. And they drew. So 1-1 there. So those are some, games that were played. And let's go to the Manning Cup. All right, so Camperdown and Kingston College, 2 goals to 0 in favor of KC. Charlie Simmet and Calabar, 3-0 in favor of Calabar. Penwood High and Idle, 10-0 in favor of Idle. Meadowbrook and Cumberland, 3-2 in favor of Meadowbrook. Spanish Town and Jamaica College, 3-0 in favor of Jamaica College. Bridgeport and Clancarty, 2-1 in favor of Bridgeport. Excelsior and Cedar Grove, 7-1 in favor of Excelsior. Innswood and Holy Trinity, 2-0 in favor of Innswood. Mona High and St. Mary's College, 9-1 in favor of Mona. St. Catherine and Edith Dalton James High, 7-0 in favor of St. Catherine High. Stats, so I believe that's St. Andrew Technical High School and Tarrant High. All right, so I'm not seeing any scores in this one. So Jamaica College, okay, this was an unfinished game. So I'm just seeing that highlight here. Jamaica College and Cumberland, and 3-0. So I'm not sure what's happening with that one. All right, so I guess we'll see this Friday, September 22nd. I guess so. But those are the games so far with, some scores that happened, Wednesday. So the Stats and Tarrant, that's going to be tomorrow's match. And I guess Jamaica College and Cumberland, they're going to, I guess, finish their game, as well as Cedar Grove and Bridgeport. All right. So those are some games for tomorrow. So just circling for final comments from the chat. Any final comments that you would like to share? So just checking for some final comments. And I'm just looking in the chat there. Do you have any final comments before we wrap up this one? So we're pretty much, at the end of this conversation, and would love to, get some final comments, from you before we go. I guess in the meantime, I'll go to my little TED Talk. So last evening, we talked about self-care, and, it is important for you to practice or exercise self-care. Your mental wellness is definitely important, and just do what you can do. Sometimes self-care might be a lonely journey, but do whatever works for you. It does not have to be a lonely journey if you want that, or if you have that support in place. And so that is important too. There are different, ways to exercise self-care, and it is important, for you to do that. And last evening, we learned about the ABCs of self-care. So awareness. So are you able to understand, when your body is sending you a message and, okay, I need to take a break. I need to have some time for myself, I to get better, to feel better, to do something that, makes you better. So that awareness is important. The B from the ABCs, the B represents, balance and boundaries. So balance is in the context, you might have different roles and responsibilities. So, for example, you might be a parent, you work. And so, how do you create a balance in terms of taking care of yourself and showing up effectively to carry out those roles? So your role as a parent, your role as an employee, for example, and that is definitely important. And in the context of balance, it may not necessarily be a perfect balance, right? So it may mean that, okay, I need to take, an hour every day just to relax and, reflect and move on. It could be that. And for some, people might take in like a day off or two. So sometimes it's not necessarily a perfect balance, but, some opportunity for you to rejuvenate and re-energize and go again where you can show up effectively. Boundaries, the B also represents boundaries. So are you able to say yes to the things that you want to do and also no to the things that you do not want to do? And so sometimes you might have friends who want you to perhaps come to a party with them or to do something for them, but you know that if it is that you're going to do that, it's probably going to put, more pressure on you and you just don't want to do it. Don't let peer pressure, influence you. It's okay to say no and, try not to overcommit. That is definitely important in terms of maintaining and, your maintaining, mental wellness. That is definitely important. So those are the B's. And then the C stands for connection and community. Sometimes when we are experiencing stress, we tend to isolate. And so it is important to know when to connect, when to reach out to your community, the people who care about you, when to find somebody to talk to. That connection is important. So that might be reaching out to friends, family members. And sometimes, yes, sometimes we have to reach out to the professionals who are there, who can help us. And so that is definitely, definitely important. So remember to take care of yourself and, do what works for you. And, remember that your health is your wealth. And so you want to ensure that you are giving, yourself the best space to function effectively and to be okay. All right. So that is definitely, definitely important. Remember too that self-care is not selfish. It is definitely important and not selfish. It is important to take care of you. All right. To take care of yourself, take care of you. All right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for sharing the chat. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for liking. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for all your support. Really, really appreciate it. All right. Remember to turn on your post notification. Yes, hit the bell and select all. And also tell a friend to tell another friend about the Voices in Education. This is a safe space where we can share and learn from each other. So please remember to do that. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you, thank you. And I will see you in the next live. All right. So blessings and love. Take care, everyone. sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel so that you can listen to the different voices in education. Stay tuned.